Thou, even thou, art to be feared, and who may stand in thy sight when once thou art angry? Psalm 76, verse 7. Asaph moves from the battlefield to the throne room. The shift is deliberate. The previous verses described what God did to the stout-hearted and the chariots of war. Now, Asaph concludes what the evidence demands. God is to be feared, not respected in a polite, distant way, but feared. The word carries the full weight of reverential terror before a power that cannot be measured or matched. The double emphasis is not accidental. Thou, even thou. Asaph isolates God from every other claimant to fear. The nations feared their mountain fortresses. Warriors feared opposing armies. Kings feared rival kingdoms. Asaph strips all of that away and places the full force of fear where it belongs, on God alone. Not God, along with other powers. God as the singular object of fear, standing apart from everything else that men have ever trembled before. The question that follows is not a genuine inquiry. It is a declaration shaped like a question. Who may stand in thy sight when once thou art angry? The answer is no one. Not the stout-hearted, not the men of might, not the chariot or the horse, nor the mountain fortresses of the predatory nations. When God's anger rises, no one stands. The question hangs in the air, not to invite debate, but to silence every competing claim to power. The nations that burned the sanctuary had no answer to this question. Their silence proved the point. Thou didst cause judgment to be heard from heaven. The earth feared and was still. Psalm 76, verse 8. God's judgment does not require a human court or a human messenger. It proceeds from heaven. Asaph declares God caused judgment to be heard, using language that emphasizes God's active role in making his verdict known. The judgment is not whispered or suggested. Divine judgment carries across creation without obstruction. Immediate and total is how the earth responds. Two movements occur together, fear and stillness. The earth does not argue with God's verdict. It does not negotiate or delay. Creation recognizes the voice of its maker and falls silent before it. The same earth that trembled at Sinai when God descended, the same earth whose pillars God holds in his hand, responds to his judgment with the only appropriate posture: stillness before the God who speaks from heaven. This verse places God's judgment in a cosmic perspective. The nations that attacked Zion operated as though their actions were local affairs, political and military disputes between human powers. Asaph corrects that understanding. God's judgment over those nations was heard from heaven itself, and the entire earth fell silent at the sound. When God arose to judgment, to save all the meek of the earth, Selah. Psalm 76, verse 9. The purpose of God's arising is now made plain. God does not arise in judgment to show power. He arises to save. The object of his salvation is specific: the meek of the earth. Those who have no resources of their own, no high ground to hold, no army to call upon. The pairing of judgment and salvation in a single verse reveals the character of God's action at Zion. When God struck down the stout-hearted and cast the chariots and horses into death, he was delivering those who had no power to deliver themselves. The judgment that fell on the nations was the salvation of the meek. The same act accomplished both. God's arising in wrath against the strong is God's arising in mercy toward the weak.